Today is Tuesday, December 30th, 2008, and we are interviewing Lillian Hartz Jurovsky in Lincoln, Nebraska. Lillian is 88 years old, and she was born on September 22nd, 1920. My name is Ellen Hellrig, and I'm going to be one of the interviewers, and Lillian is my aunt. And also in the studio is Tina Henderson, who is a friend, and Marty Baker, who is a friend. And they are in the room helping with equipment and doing the interviewing. Lillian, could you tell me what branch of service you were in?
I was in the Army Nurses Corps.
Okay. And what rank when you went in?
I went in as a second lieutenant.
Okay. And when you were discharged, you were?
A first lieutenant.
All right. And what years were you in the service?
I entered the service in May of 1942. I was discharged in January of 46.
Okay. When you enlisted, where were you living?
I was living in Lincoln, Nebraska. I had just gotten out of nurses training and received my RN.
Okay.
I was working at St. Elizabeth Hospital. I can remember this very well, in Pearl Harbor. And it just, yes, it hit me. We're at war, and I want to help. And that is when I decided that I wanted to be an Army nurse. I was assigned to Camp J.T. Robinson in Little Rock, Arkansas. And there's when I was joined the Army. Okay. In Arkansas.
In Arkansas.
So I was worked at a station hospital for maybe a year in Little Camp Robinson in Little Rock, Arkansas. About a year of working there, I was got orders to go to 32nd Evacuation Hospital in Yuma, Arizona. There we were set up in tents in the desert, and we received a lot of training there. I actually didn't work in the hospital there, but we were trained there. Waiting for orders is what we were doing. And we were there, I would say, 3 months when we received orders. We didn't know where we were going. We got on the train. The train went into California, and we were sure we were headed for the South Pacific. But no, it wasn't that way. We traveled all through the United States.
On train?
By train. Very slow. Many stops.
Do you remember how long it took you?
It took a good week. And, of course, we were well fed and entertained on the train. Our whole unit was on this train.
Now, how many is that?
All right. In our unit, 32nd Evacuation Hospital, there were 20 nurses and 20 officers. Of those officers, there were 10 doctors, and the other officers were like mess hall, supply officers, and so forth. And 100 enlisted men. Those enlisted men didn't all work in the hospital. There were mess hall, supplies. And we needed all 100 enlisted men because they would set up our tents.
How big were those tents?
Our living quarters were 5 nurses to a tent or 5 doctors to a tent. The hospital tents, there were 20 patients to a tent.
So were there any separations, or it was just one big tent?
One big long tent set up with cots. 10 on each side, maybe 12 sometimes. It varied. We didn't always have exactly 20 patients, or sometimes it was 30, sometimes it was less.
Okay, so you were traveling by train across the United States, so then where did you end up?
Well, at Camp Kilmer, we did not set up a hospital or anything. There, we just waited for orders.
So what do you do while you're waiting?
Oh, we went on hikes, had drills, gas mask drills. It was mostly training, training for combat or take care of the wounded soldiers. So we were at Camp Kilmer. I can't say exactly how long, maybe a month, when we got orders to go. Go where? So we got on a troop ship and ended up in Ireland, Belfast.
Okay.
There we were set up in, we never set up a hospital there, but our quarters were Quonset huts. And I got maybe 10 to a Quonset. And there we waited and waited. That was the service. Waited for more orders. So they said, well, we're on the go to England. So there we ended up in northern Wales. There we were billeted in homes. We stayed, there were 3 nurses staying where I was in an elderly couple's home. I think these couples were probably paid by the government, to house us. But for our meals, we went to the mess hall. There was more waiting and more training. We hiked and we put on our gas masks, helmets, fatigues. So I think maybe we were there, not a month. We waited for D-Day, but we didn't know what we were waiting for, but there was D-Day, I think June of 44. So we left England on a British ship, troop ship.
And this was your whole unit?
Our whole unit.
Can I say something, ask something else? When you were waiting for the invasion, right?
Yes.
But
we didn't know.
You didn't know, but
no.
Were there rumors?
Yes,
were there rumors going
many rumors.
What were some of the rumors that you
yes.
had heard?
In fact, we might turn around and go to the South Pacific. We didn't know.
But as far as the invasion of Europe, were there rumors that was going to happen?
Yes.
Where you were at in
England? Yes.
Could you tell when you were there in England? Because you were there with all the troops that actually did the invasion. Could you tell, was there a big flurry of activity? I mean, was there things starting to change?
Everything was so secret. We really didn't.
Did you see more troops?
Oh, yes, we saw troops, yes.
I mean, did you see more
coming and going?
So you didn't really know how many were there?
No, like in England, no.
Yes.
Because they were all over. We just happened to be stationed in northern Wales, but they were all over England. So we knew D-Day, and but we were on course 24-hour alert. Couldn't go anywhere because when we got orders, we went. And so we landed at Normandy Beach. Our ship was docked, and we sat there waiting. We couldn't get to shore because, mines and so forth.
And how many days after the invasion was this?
4 days after
4 days
after
and you hit the beach with.
Yes. So it was very scary. And of course, when we went ashore, boats came to the ship, and we were loaded on the boats, maybe 10 to a boat, and landed ashore and ran up the hill And, of course, the enlisted men had pup tents. They set up their pup tents, and we had
Right on the
help, of
shore.
course, right on the shore. Oh, we might have gone in a few yards.
Okay.
We dug foxholes. We were so, I mean, it was just so unsettled. But it wasn't long. We were following the front lines. And we moved, I would say every 2 weeks, set up tents. We kept our patients only a day or two. We had a surgical tent. They had their surgery. They came to, like, my ward. There might have been maybe 6 wards.
Were you the first place that the wounded soldiers came to?
No. Ahead of us, this was back and forth. Ahead of us were field hospitals and first aid stations, but the ambulances picked them up from the first aid stations to our evacuation hospital, where they most had surgery. Oh, there were a few, like pneumonia, bad colds, broken bones. But usually they went to surgery. We had an admitting office, and they admitted them and sent them to surgery, and then they came. We kept them only 1 day, 2 days at the most, after they were able to be transported to a general hospital. So every 2 weeks, we had a break when we moved. We moved by sometimes truck, sometimes ambulance, but the trucks, of course, took all our equipment, and we rode along with our packs. And
Now, what did you have to carry? Or what did you have?
a duffel bag, a bag with our sea rations, and
What about all of your clothes?
clothes.
What did you have?
We had a change of clothes.
One change of clothes?
Mm-hmm. We didn't bathe every day. No. In fact, even while we were working, we had a shower tent. Of course, latrines. But it wasn't a shower every day.
So as
We a lot of times took a spit bath, we called it, in our helmets. It was a rugged life.
When you came off that boat onto that beach, what did you see that 4 days after?
It was terrible. We went through cities that were bombed out completely. Bridges destroyed. Of course, we couldn't cross the river. We crossed the Rhine. This was, of course, later. On pontoon bridges, which the engineers built. And that was also scary. But the bridges were all bombed out. Cities completely destroyed. But we went along, and we averaged maybe 7 or 8 miles behind the front lines. Sometimes closer, sometimes farther. They were moving pretty fast, the front lines. So we went through France, Austria, Belgium, into Germany.
Into Germany.
Into Germany,
Oh, wow.
yeah. Battle of the Bulge. We got many patients from Battle of the
How
Bulge.
far were you from there?
From
your hospital? How far
from
were
the
you
Battle of the Bulge?
Yes.
I would say 8 miles. We could hear shelling.
So you got a lot of action.
Oh, yes.
From there.
Oh, yes.
Now I saw your picture. You're wearing a Third Army patch.
Yes.
Is that who you were attached
We were
to?
with the Third
All right.
Army.
You know, General George Patton was the commander.
Yes, but we didn't see.
You never saw him?
No, we
Did you
never.
hear stories of George Patton?
Oh, yes. But I never did see Patton.
Were they good stories about General Patton, or were they mixed stories?
I would say mixed.
Right.
They didn't call him Patton, they called him Blood and Guts.
Was he liked by the majority of the Third Army?
Oh, yes, yes. We had to have a leader. Our leader of our unit was a colonel. He was Colonel Sangers.
So what was your particular, as a registered nurse, what did you actually do in the hospital tent?
One RN was in charge, and we had one ward boy, we called, and that was for 20 patients.
So you were in charge of like 20 patients.
Yes, yes. But like I said, we only gave them like something for pain. They all had IVs. Maybe some were getting blood if they had lost a lot of blood. And see, we were marked with Red Cross. We were not to be hit.
Attacked?
But this was quite an experience. Our tents were set up next to a highway. We thought, oh, great, our ambulances could come get right in. The enemy was strafing the highway, and our tents were hit. We had an officer, a doctor, captain, lost his leg because his tent was strafed, and his wounds were so bad they had to amputate his. So they were not to strafe our tents, but they were strafing the highway and hit our tent.
Did you ever have any enemy patients? Any Germans?
We had prisoners, yes.
Did they?
Yes, we did have.
You treated a lot of those. Mm-hmm. So after you treated the
I
enemy,
can't say a lot of them, but we did have some.
So when you treated the enemy prisoners, then they moved on.
And they moved on.
Do you know where they went from there?
No, don't know where.
But they did come through.
Everything was. Now it's no secret.
Right.
But everything was very secretive.
Did you have trouble when the enemy? You had the enemy prisoners. The enemy patients.
We took care of them.
In America, you took care of them.
We took care of them.
Were you able to?
Say
Did you have a?
Oh, we had a
little
little,
bit of bias
maybe
there?
a little bit, but nothing was said like or no. We took care of them, and then they were shipped out.
You did the best you could for
We
everybody.
did. We
for
sure
every one
did.
of them.
Enemy or not.
So you were saying that you had some time in between.
Yes.
When you, were moving. Now, how did you move? All these.
All
tents?
the equipment. That's what these 100 enlisted men would do. They packed up all the. Of course, the nurses didn't have to do that. In fact, after we moved, our tents were all set up, and of course we helped set up cots and light stuff, but all the heavy equipment was done for. A lot of times we would come in and the tents were all set up. They'd go ahead of us. It was all arranged pretty well.
So once you got there and the tents were set up, tell me what was inside of your tent.
Inside of our tent, for a desk, we had a big box. As far as records, we didn't keep records like they do here in the hospitals. They had a tag pinned to their clothes, and we would say that usually it was a sedative, or if we gave them something for pain, we'd write it on this tag, and that went with them. As far as our records, it was just a notebook. Keep track of our patients.
Now, did you keep track of all the wounded that came in? I mean, did they know who they were?
Yes.
And wrote
Their name. They were on their tag was their name and number, and what we did for them was on this tags, and that was sent back to the. Usually, it was a general hospital, and we did send a lot of our patients back to duty, which they wanted. They didn't want to leave their outfit. They wanted back to their unit.
So you wanted to be with their buddies.
Yes, yes.
When they came to your hospital, were they pretty much in stable condition and they just needed surgery? Or was it an emergency situation where you had to figure out what was wrong with them?
Yes, some were emergencies, some were. But I didn't work in the surgical tent. But I know that the ambulance came in, the patient was rushed to surgery. There was no dilly-dallying. But there were cases where they said, we're ahead of the field hospital.
Really? So they were bringing them forward.
Yes.
So they passed you to go to the
But
field hospital.
they were moving pretty fast. If you're, do you remember?
I don't remember. I read about it, but
I was going to say
Patton roared through Europe.
you had to read about it.
Okay, you know the movie MASH?
Yes.
How similar is that show and that movie
Well,
to
I'll
what
tell you that
experienced?
the setup, the tents, that's typical, but they're having too much fun. they have to make a good movie.
It was all business.
We did, yes. When we were operating, we were businesslike. We did our job.
You didn't have a still in your tent? You didn't have a still in your tent?
A what?
A still.
Oh,
Big
no,
booze?
Alcoholic?
no, not when we were working. Well, this was when we were at leisure. We had big parties.
They had plenty of alcohol then?
Yes, it was available. Whatever.
Whatever you wanted.
Yes, we had.
You over in Europe probably had a little cognac.
Yeah, we had whatever we wanted, really.
I guess the question I had is, I know in the wintertime Germany is very cold.
Very.
How did you stay warm? Or
We in our tents where we slept, we had a heater, a wooden stove, which was also in the hospital tents. Now that was a job that the enlisted men had.
that they kept you
They
supplied
kept.
with?
Oh yes, they kept us supplied with wood. They kept our fires going.
Was there anything that you were, when you got your supplies, that people would be surprised if you had something in your supplies? Can you tell me what you might have had?
Well, to raise our the soldiers' morale, we wore lots of lipstick and makeup, and they loved that.
Now, did
Well, they loved to see a lady. We got free cigarettes, candy, lipstick.
Tell me a typical meal that you would have.
It varied, but we were on sea rations while we were traveling. We had biscuits, sausages. We always had plenty to eat, but a typical meal when we were set up, we had our canteens, and meals were maybe 6. A lot of powdered milk, of course, eggs. For breakfast, say, we'd have maybe sausage and the eggs, which were powdered, I'm sure.
What did you do? I know that you guys were working a lot.
We worked 12-hour shifts, always, 12 to 12, either night or day. And this was no days off for maybe the 2 weeks we were in operation until we closed to move. Then a lot of times we'd get 2 weeks off.
What did you do in your spare time?
We went on passes. We would get a pass. I got to Paris, to lots of different places in Berchtesgaden.
What did Paris look like after after the Germans left?
Everything was blackout. So we thought, well, Paris, we're going to have a great time. But it was pretty much blackout. We did get to some nice places.
You were talking about some of the parties and things that
Oh,
you
that's what I-
attended.
well, this.
Where were those at, or how did you?
Well, a lot of times we went to another outfit nearby. Like I said, the officers, no ladies, so they would invite the nurses
So what did they have for music?
at the dances.
Yeah.
We had music, well, mostly like record players.
Okay, that's what I was
Record
wondering.
players. And we had the old I'll Walk Alone. Good numbers.
So that's where you learned how to dance, huh?
Well, no, I was a dancer before I went into the service, but we got plenty in service too.
So can you think of anything out of all this war and what was going on? Was there anything that happened that was humorous that you can remember?
Oh, we had a lot of humor. When we were set up and working, it was all business. But our fun was in between moves. But we were all business when we were working. Like I say, we worked 12 hours and we were tired and rested 12 hours and worked 12 more hours.
So you basically, when you were working, you either worked or you were sleeping. Or
Well, right. We were pretty much working.
Did you get much news from back home? How long did it take for letters? to
Yes,
get to you?
we had mail, but it was always late. It
How
took
long did it take for a letter to get?
a lot of times a month, because I would get news from home and it would be old news. But then
Did they
It was
censor
news.
that? Did they censor a lot of that?
no, our mail wasn't
Your mail wasn't censored.
censored. No.
So would it be the same way if you were writing home? Would it take a month?
Sometimes,
to
yes,
get
it would. Yes, it would. Because I can remember my family would say, "We finally got your letter." So,
Was there anything that you were restricted that could you tell them exactly where you were? Or
no,
was that-
no. It was all secret.
Did they read your mail that went out?
No,
They didn't.
no, they did.
It was kind of the honor system, huh?
Yes, that was like cameras. No, but don't take pictures. Well, I do have some.
You were a little rebel.
But like this empty tent, we couldn't take pictures with patients.
Yeah.
It was no.
So you would have got in trouble if they would have caught you taking that picture?
They didn't catch me. but we weren't supposed to take pictures.
Tell us what you had. Then.
Yeah, what kind of medals did you get?
I was awarded the American Campaign Medal, European African Campaign Medal. We got this with other medals. 4 Bronze Stars and the World War II Victory Medal.
And you never really had the medal.
Well, we had the ribbons with the Bronze Stars, but no, like the Victory Medal. I never had the actual medals.
So could you still get those?
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. But what would I do with them?
Keep them as a family keepsake.
I'll be
Sure,
gone,
yeah.
and what would my family do with them? That's my feeling. The ribbons meant a lot to me. I'm very proud that I served, and I'm proud of my medals and all, but I don't think I want the real. It's just the way I feel.
So once you came back and you were discharged from the service, then what was your life like after that? When you came back,
For me, it was easy to get back to normal. I got a job right away and
nursing.
in nursing. I nursed at Lincoln General. It so happened that my folks had retired and moved into Lincoln, So when I came home, I didn't go home to Valparaiso. I went
your parents.
to my parents' home, which I had never seen in Lincoln. And it was 2 blocks from Lincoln General, so I immediately got a job. And I was back to normal right away.
So you didn't have any
I didn't have any
adjustment.
after. No. I was glad to get back. After 4 years, when I first went into the service, I didn't expect to be in for 4 years. I thought, a year or 2. But I was in for the duration. There was no, like there is now.
So you didn't sign up for a certain number of years?
No, just for the duration. And that's what it was. Now the boys are back and forth, which is wonderful, but there was nothing. We couldn't, there's no way you could get out unless you got married and got pregnant. Then you were out.
There's probably some that did that.
Yes, there were.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, there were. I'll have to say that.
What one experience would you like to share?
The joy of seeing wounded soldiers come in and leave all healed.
Healed and
I'm proud to have served.
we're proud of you too.
Thank you.
And thank
Thank
you
you very much.
Lillian,
Thank you
thank you
for
for
doing
this
that.
time. Thank you for the service to your country.